日本最大級の建築家ネットワークアーキテクツスタジオジャパンの提供でお送りします。
Casa Bella è una rivista che ormai ha 100 anni di vita. Sulle pagine di questa rivista è passata la storia dell'architettura del Novecento. Il nostro augurio, la nostra speranza, il nostro impegno è che Casa Bella anche nel prossimo secolo continui a documentare ciò che l'architettura internazionale verrà producendo e offrendo. Lo faremo con la massima serietà, perché la serietà è ciò che merita questa antica e nobile professione che gli architetti praticano.
Casa Bella, Japan.
国内外のデザイナーやアーティストが創造する空間美学。人々の輝ける暮らしを求め、創造という終わりなき道をひたすら走り続ける。建築家とは創造のアスリートなのかもしれない。今回のフォーカスアスリートはスペシャルプレゼンテーションとして海外の建築家たち自らさまざまな建築観を披露していただきます。今回も前回に引き続き建築家デビッド・チッパーフィールド氏が登場。イギリスの建築家でありながらその活躍は日本をはじめ世界各国に及ぶ。自らのステージを的確に見極めながらさまざまな国の文化を吸収し、柔軟な発想と懐の広さで洗練された作品を生み出している。今回は代表作をご紹介いただきながら彼が培ってきた建築設計の考え方を存分に語っていただいた。
Especially architects, I would say, in England and America, where we don't have so many medium-scale projects. You spend many, many years doing very small projects, apartments and shops and interiors and those things. It's not so easy in England to move up scales. So for a lot of time I did a lot of interior work. And of course now we're doing much bigger projects, so we have an enormous variation in scale and type of project. But then you have to add to that in geography, because my first projects were in Japan. Then we've been working in Germany for many years, and actually the Berlin office is now the bigger office. We've been working in America, we've been working in Italy, we have an office in Italy, we have an office in Shanghai. This is not only a concept of expansion, that we have an office, it's not like Starbucks, we're just sort of opening more and more offices. It was a process of opportunity and experience. So I had an office in Japan because that's where I could get some work, and I really spent 3 or 4 years doing small projects in Japan, and then we won the Noise Museum project here, so we opened an office to do that. So it wasn't, I've never been in a situation where I had a big office in London and then started to sort of open other places. My own formation of my ideas has also been dependent on where I work. I think it's very different if someone like Frank Gehry, let's say, has formulated very strongly his ideas and then he's asked to do a building in Japan. But for instance, when I started working in Japan, it was really my first building, so I wasn't sure what I should do. Even in England I wasn't sure, but certainly wasn't sure what I should do in Japan. So then more influence comes from the place as well, I think. Plus that's what I believe in, I think. So in terms of precise projects,
ここからは代表作のエピソードを踏まえ、そのアイデンティティを探ってみた。
Marbach, I think Marbach was a project which could only have been done in Germany. In a way, it has a connection not only to the place, but even to the building culture of Germany and also the architectural. I'm not sure I would have maybe done that building in Iowa. I think I wouldn't have. I mean, first of all, technically it would have been difficult to do because to produce concrete of that quality would be difficult. Secondly, I think the architectural language wouldn't make so much sense. there. So I think I've had a sort of strange life where I worked in very many countries, but that experience wasn't just a matter of a sort of colonialization of, exporting. It was normally to do with being in that place, and that fundamentally influenced my work as well. I mean, I think my experience in Japan fundamentally changed my way of thinking, and really was a big influence. My working in Germany has also been the same. I think it's been a very strong influence on that work. The Noise Museum was a project of 10 years and completely linked into the history of Germany, and the whole, not just the history of architecture, but the history of the country. In the beginning, when you start your office, you're happy to do one building, and then you're happy to do another building. Your work is really about one building at a time, which, to be honest, is how all architects would like to work all their life. One building, finish the building, do another building. The problem is it's very difficult to operate that way because clients don't wait. They come in groups and come at the same time. And also, I think there's a certain point when you have invented an office. You've invented a group of people. This is a big shift in a practice. So that at a certain point, how do you have 200 people working on 20 buildings and try to have the same quality and idea and intensity? And I think it's a number of architects that don't do that. They stay with a small staff and do one or two projects, which, I think it's a very admirable way of working, and I think some architects have done that. I think of someone like Peter Zumthor, amazing sort of intensity. I think you have to be in a culture that allows that to happen. I mean, in England, it's very difficult. I would still be sitting in my office waiting for the phone to ring. I think the challenge for what we're trying to work with now is how do you make a reliable professional practice, still pursuing ideas, still trying to change, still trying to evolve, and trying to make sure each project is a good project. And I think this is the chapter that we're in our office now. We've built a lot, so there are people in my office who have incredible experience just in the practical issues of construction, and to know what can be done, what is difficult to do, what shouldn't be done, what is not so easy to do but could be done. So because these are all things which we have to learn better, because the construction industry is always telling us what we can't do, and it's having an enormous influence on the quality of architecture. So to be strong enough to know how to produce a high quality, not just in visual terms but in physical terms, takes experience. If you can really have a smooth machine, then maybe it's a good way of concentrating on ideas and using this machine to push ideas. So although it would seem that it would become more difficult the more projects you do, in some ways that's true. How do you spread ideas around on so many? But in other ways, one would have to say that as you're more experienced, you become stronger about what's possible and what you can't do, and you become clear about what things you want to do. I've become a better decision maker now than I was 15 years ago. I'm supported by a much stronger team than I was 15 years ago, and we have an amazing pool of talent in our office. I mean, it's a sort of because that's what I was saying. I mean, you build an office as well. You build a team of people and the culture of that office. I think you're building buildings, but you're building a team.
最後に人と建築のあり方について語っていただいた。
I suppose I have learnt that a certain directness and a certain honesty and in a way I think architecture does, of course, deal with abstract ideas. It does deal with logistic issues of construction. But in the end, like most things, it's dealing with people. That every business, finally, is about people. You can say it, if you're in the restaurant business, you're doing food and you're cooking, but actually, it's about giving food to people. In every business, I think, finally, it's your relationship to people. And I think in architecture, we should never forget that the reason we're building is for people. It's about, I think sometimes architects can forget the purpose of architecture. And I've always felt that our work should remain very close to the sort of humanity that one believes in, the basic daily life, the quality of our daily life, the ritual of our daily life. And architecture is something which gives us an environment within which we can conduct maybe slightly better the daily. It doesn't replace our life. In that sense, it comes back to the beginning. It's a bit like the nature that I grew up in. It's the fields and the forest and the streams, within which you then enjoy your life. It's not the center. It's something which may have the possibility of making each day, having breakfast with your children, or sitting, having a glass of wine with your wife, or just walking through the city. Maybe it increases the quality, intensifies that quality in some proportion.